You open the fridge, reach for the milk, and pour it into your cereal, your coffee, maybe even a glass for someone you love. But what if that simple everyday act is actually more dangerous than you've ever imagined? In the past 3 years alone, there have been over 200 dairy-related recalls across the U.S., from bacterial contamination to mislabeling to temperature abuse. And yet, these milk cartons keep rolling into stores we've trusted for decades. How many of us have unknowingly poured spoiled milk into our breakfast bowls? How many promises printed on store-brand labels are covering up shortcuts that could cost us our health? This isn't fear-mongering. It's about your well-being, your money, and your right to know what you're really being sold. Because if even milk, the most basic household grocery, can no longer be trusted, what else has already gone bad? This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. Today, we reveal 7 major grocery chains whose milk may be putting your health at risk. And we'll also show you better, safer places to shop instead. Let's begin. On the surface, Walmart seems like it's doing right by America. A one-stop store that's open every day of the week. You can pick up your prescriptions, grab dinner, and snag a gallon of milk, all without breaking the bank. With slogans like, "Save money, live better," it's easy to believe Walmart has your best interest at heart. The aisles are clean, the prices are low, and the shelves are full. It feels like Walmart is on your side. But the reality behind that spotless image tells a very different story, one that may be quietly poisoning your peace of mind, one glass at a time. In 2023, a damning joint investigation by Reuters and the Food Integrity Campaign uncovered shocking negligence in Walmart's milk supply chain. In key distribution centers located in North Carolina and Ohio, milk shipments were left sitting in unrefrigerated loading areas for hours, exposed to scorching summer temperatures well above 80 degrees Celsius. That's more than double the safe limit. And yet, those same cartons were loaded onto trucks and delivered to store shelves, without any warning, inspection, or label alert. For unsuspecting customers, there was no hint anything was wrong. Just a cold jug in the fridge, a silent threat with every pour. Across platforms like Reddit, Consumer Affairs, and the Better Business Bureau, thousands of customers have complained of milk souring days, even a full week before its printed expiration date. Seniors and families have reported vomiting, stomach issues, and emergency room visits after drinking milk that looked normal, but wasn't. One woman from Kansas said her granddaughter fell violently ill after drinking a carton of Walmart's Great Value milk. That same carton was later confirmed to have spoiled prematurely, and her story is far from rare. The problem goes beyond distribution. Walmart owns its own milk processing facility in Fort Wayne, Indiana. According to a 2022 investigative report by The Washington Post, the plant uses ultra-high temperature, UHT, processing to sterilize milk and extend its shelf life. But this method strips out crucial nutrients like calcium and vitamin D, leaving older adults and vulnerable shoppers with milk that looks healthy but offers less actual benefit. Then there's the deeper ethical rot. In 2023, a lawsuit filed by an animal welfare organization revealed disturbing practices at one of Walmart's major dairy suppliers. Cows were found suffering from untreated infections, trapped in filth, and forced to produce milk despite visible illness. High somatic cell counts, essentially pus, were found in bulk milk shipments. That same milk was processed and sold under the Great Value brand, wrapped in picturesque farm images and stocked in thousands of Walmart stores. Inside the stores, the issues continue. Former Walmart employees have come forward describing chronic understaffing and chaos in the dairy section. One employee from Illinois admitted that milk left out for hours was often returned to the cooler and reshelved. No thermometer, no inspection, just a rush to keep up with demand. If the carton wasn't leaking, it stayed. So, what are your safer options? Sprouts. Farmers Market is a solid choice, sourcing dairy from smaller farms with clearly labeled non-UHT milk. Their cold chain is monitored closely, and freshness is a top priority. Another surprising alternative is Cost Plus World Market. While not a full grocer, many locations now offer premium local dairy options, carefully vetted and ideal for seniors who need trustworthy nutrition. At Walmart, that $2 gallon of milk might seem like a steal. But the real price could be your health. If you're someone who shops smart, lives on a fixed income, or simply trusts the brands you've known for years, it might be time to take a closer look, because that familiar blue label in your fridge might be hiding a dangerous truth. At first glance, Aldi seems like the smart shopper's dream. Clean, minimalist stores, neatly stacked shelves, prices that beat out big-name chains by a mile. For families surviving on Social Security, disability, or minimum wage, Aldi appears to be a lifeline. Basic groceries, including milk, often cost 20 to 30% less than the competition. Their house brand milk, Friendly Farms, has found its way into millions of American fridges. And with their reputation for German efficiency and no-frills simplicity, Aldi promotes itself as the clever, no-compromise way to save. But what many shoppers don't realize is that the very milk they're trusting may come with hidden costs and risks that older Americans, young children, and immunocompromised individuals simply can't afford. Start with the source. Despite the wholesome branding, much of Aldi's milk is contracted from massive industrial dairies, not small, local farms. According to a 2023 investigation by the Midwest Farm Transparency Project, multiple dairies linked to Aldi were repeatedly cited for animal neglect. Cows suffering from untreated infections, overcrowded, unsanitary milking stations, poor waste management. These aren't just moral failings. They're direct threats to your health. Infected cows often produce milk with elevated somatic cell counts, a scientific term that, in simple language, means pus, inflammation, and low-quality milk. The National Dairy Residue Monitoring Program backed this up, showing that milk from some Aldi-associated farms had higher than average somatic cell levels. The milk may still fall within legal limits, but legal doesn't always mean safe. And that's just the beginning. In 2021, Aldi was hit with a class action lawsuit in Illinois for allegedly making misleading RBST-free claims on their dairy labels. Plaintiffs claimed Aldi couldn't confirm whether all their suppliers actually avoided synthetic growth hormones. Though the case was quietly settled, it cast serious doubt on Aldi's dairy transparency, how much of the label is fact, and how much is just clever packaging. Customers have been sounding the alarm, too. A 2023 report by Consumer Feedback America ranked Aldi as one of the top 3 worst chains for premature milk spoilage. Across multiple states, shoppers reported milk souring within 48 hours of purchase. Some cartons smelled rancid upon opening. Others had a thin, watery texture, signs of improper storage or even diluted content. One shopper from Ohio described dumping out 2 full gallons by the 3rd day. And she wasn't the only one, so what's going wrong? Part of the blame lies in Aldi's extreme cost-cutting model. Most locations operate with just 2 or 3 staff per shift. That means critical safety checks, like refrigeration logs, often go ignored. A former Aldi manager in Georgia told Retail Insider Weekly that overnight cooler failures were common, but milk was rarely tossed out unless it was visibly leaking. If your jug sat at 50-degree room for half the night, no one told you. Chances are, no one even knew. Then there's distribution. Aldi relies on centralized hubs to deliver milk across wide regions. According to the Food Temperature Coalition, Aldi's delivery trucks had the highest temperature fluctuations in their testing, sometimes swinging by 12 degrees Celsius during transit. That's more than enough to kickstart bacterial growth long before the milk reaches your hands. So, where can you turn for safer milk? If you're in the Northeast or Great Lakes region, Stu Leonard's is a standout. They source directly from nearby farms, process milk on site, and usually sell it within 48 hours of milking. Their labeling is clear, and their staff is trained in proper dairy handling. In the western U.S., WCO Foods is another excellent option. As an employee-owned grocer, they prioritize food safety with daily temperature logs and strict stock rotation policies. Sure, Aldi's low prices are appealing, but when spoiled milk ends up in your fridge, the savings vanish. And for seniors on fixed incomes, young families on tight budgets, or anyone with health vulnerabilities, that gamble isn't worth it. The next time you grab that familiar red-capped jug at Aldi, ask yourself, is the price you're saving really worth the risk you're taking? There was a time when the name said it all, Safeway, a grocery store that felt more like a neighbor than a corporation. With wide aisles, friendly cashiers, and club card deals for seniors, it was the go-to spot for families across the West Coast. A place where milk was presumed to be safe, clean, and dependable. The kind of place where you didn't second-guess the gallon you grabbed from the fridge door. But today, the meaning behind that name has changed, and not for the better. In 2023, an in-depth exposé by San Francisco Weekly Investigative unearthed a truth that shook even longtime Safeway shoppers. Across multiple locations in California, Nevada, and Oregon, cartons of milk that had already been pulled from shelves for contamination fears were quietly sent to third-party reprocessing facilities, and then returned to stores with no visible relabeling. That means the gallon you poured into your coffee last week may have been previously recalled, without you ever knowing. This wasn't just hypothetical. A cluster of campylobacteriosis infections, a severe stomach illness, especially dangerous for older adults, was traced back to underpasteurized milk sold in Northern California Safeway stores. Internal memos pointed directly to mishandled shipments that somehow made their way back onto store shelves, repackaged and redistributed without consumer warnings. It doesn't end there. From 2022 to 2024, public health departments across the region cited over 60 Safeway locations for refrigeration violations. In some cases, dairy coolers exceeded 55 degrees, 15 degrees over the federally recommended limit. That's not a minor slip. That's a microbial danger zone. At those temperatures, bacteria like Listeria, E. coli, and Salmonella can multiply rapidly, turning what should be a safe staple into a serious health hazard. One former employee from an Arizona Safeway location spoke to Consumer Truth Watch, revealing that during a cooler failure lasting more than 7 hours, management instructed staff to restock the milk anyway. "We were told not to throw anything out unless it burst," she said, "even if it sat at room temperature all day." That's not caution, that's corporate neglect. Even Safeway's private label milk, often marketed as trustworthy and locally sourced, isn't always what it seems. Most of it is processed through Albertsons Industrial Dairy Network, a pipeline that has been criticized for using chemical preservatives to artificially extend shelf life. A 2023 report from the Center for Food Integrity ranked Safeway's milk among the worst in the nation for shelf life accuracy, with cartons spoiling up to 6 days before their printed expiration dates. And those local dairy labels? Often a lie. According to Truth in Labeling USA, many of these so-called local sources turned out to be hundreds of miles away. Their products routed through regional hubs that strip away any real meaning behind the word local. So, where should you turn? In many urban areas, Latino-owned markets have quietly built reputations for selling fresher, more reliably sourced milk. Independent stores in Los Angeles and Phoenix consistently scored high for taste, spoilage accuracy, and temperature consistency in third-party tests. And if you're looking for a mainstream chain with actual safety measures, Ralph's is worth your attention. Their dairy coolers use automated digital temperature monitoring, with real-time alerts for staff. Their milk comes from California-based cooperatives, shorter travel, fewer risks, and greater transparency. Safeway once stood for reliability. Now it stands for shortcuts and silent failures. For those who grew up trusting it, who raised families around it, and who continue to rely on it, that change is more than just disappointing. It's dangerous. When the milk in your fridge can make you sick, safety needs to mean more than a name. It needs to mean action. It needs to mean truth. Target isn't your average grocery store, and that's exactly the point. With its warm lighting, polished shelves, and serene ambiance, it's designed to feel premium. For older shoppers, it offers calm over chaos. For busy families, it promises efficiency with elegance. Even the milk, sold under the Good and Gather brand, is wrapped in pastel packaging with soothing claims like 100% pure and no artificial ingredients. It looks trustworthy. It feels safe. But underneath that polished surface is a broken dairy system that quietly undermines every promise printed on those friendly cartons. Unlike traditional grocers, Target doesn't operate its own dairy processing facilities. Instead, it outsources to rotating third-party suppliers scattered across the country, chosen not for consistency, but for cost. That means your gallon of milk could come from an Ohio megaplant one week and a Texas filler the next, with no uniform standards for quality, safety, or transport. And this inconsistency has consequences. A 2023 investigation by the American Food Transparency Council found that Good and Gather milk had the second highest calcium inconsistency among store brands, with levels fluctuating by as much as 22%. In one batch, lab tests revealed traces of industrial cleaning agents, left behind by improperly rinsed processing tanks. In others, elevated peroxide levels were detected, a chemical sometimes used to prolong shelf life. Though still within the FDA's legal limits, those levels are risky for older adults and anyone with digestive sensitivities. The storage process isn't any safer. In 2022, a whistleblower from a Pennsylvania distribution center leaked internal records showing milk pallets sitting unrefrigerated for more than 5 hours. Despite the serious temperature breach, the milk was still shipped to Target stores, with no alerts and no visual indicators to warn shoppers. Customers picked up those jugs, believing they were safe, unaware that their milk had already crossed into the danger zone. Inside Target stores, the oversight continues to fall short. Unlike grocers with trained dairy staff or real-time cooler monitoring, many Target locations lack basic refrigeration logs. A 2024 audit found that 43% of stores surveyed had expired milk still on the shelves. 1 in 5 had cooler temperatures above 47 degrees, warm enough to allow harmful bacteria like listeria to thrive. Target's image keeps it out of the headlines, but appearances aren't protection. Just because it looks safe doesn't mean it is. So where should you go instead? If you're in the South, Food City offers a far more secure alternative. They operate their own dairy processing plant and track every batch from cow to cooler. Their internal systems flag issues before products reach the shelves. On the West Coast, New Season's Market stands out for its commitment to transparency and ethical sourcing. Their milk is minimally processed, clearly labeled, and stored under tightly monitored conditions. At Target, the illusion of safety is part of the design. But when you peel back the label, the risks are real. For vulnerable shoppers, for seniors, for families with children, for anyone who trusts the milk they buy to do no harm, what's hidden inside the jug matters more than what's printed outside it. Because when even a store like Target can't guarantee your milk is clean, you have to wonder, what else are we buying into without ever realizing the danger? We grew up believing milk was simple, trusted, pure. It sat in every fridge. It touched our breakfasts, our kids' lunches, our grandparents' coffee. But now we know better. Behind trusted labels, beneath familiar logos, and inside store aisles, we once walked without hesitation. A dangerous truth has been hiding in plain sight. This isn't just about sour milk. It's about a system that treats your health as expendable. A system that gambles with temperature logs, cuts corners on sourcing, ignores warning signs, and sells you spoiled goods with a smile. A system that sees low-income families, seniors, and working-class shoppers not as people, but as profit margins. We've shown you 7 major chains where the milk in your cart might not be what you think, where the promises of fresh, safe, and wholesome collapse the moment you look behind the scenes. But we've also shown you better alternatives: grocery stores, local dairies, and food retailers who believe safety is not a luxury, but a right. Because your health isn't negotiable, your trust shouldn't be betrayed, and your right to honest, safe food shouldn't depend on luck. This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. If this video opened your eyes, don't stop here. Share this with someone you care about. Subscribe for deeper investigations that put your safety first. And most importantly, ask questions, demand transparency, and choose better every time you shop. Because in today's world, what's behind the label may be the biggest threat of all. And the only way to protect ourselves is to stay informed